Okay, so now that we went over the Mexico Open, and of course, if you're watching this as a one-off video, we just discussed the Mexico Open and how 24 out of 24 buckets were successful, but really it was 36 out of 36 buckets that were successful. The whole sweet spot process, 100% successful. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of confidence using the bucket system this week. Now, one thing to note, I have to remind you, I said this earlier in the preview video during the course and tournament information segment. When we look at buckets, now you can see I have last year buckets up here. I also have course history buckets. That is something worth noting. Now, I could have used tournament history buckets. Why I say it that way, again, if you weren't with me, oh, I hate those little side pop-ups. If you weren't with me during the course information piece of this, 2020, the tournament was played at TPC Potomac. Reason being is this course was used, Quail Hollow was used for the President's Cup. So they skipped out on 2022 playing at Quail Hollow. But you get it here in 2021. Quail Hollow was used there. 2019 it was used, but obviously 2020 was an off year. 2018 Quail Hollow was used, but not in 2017 because the PGA Championship was played at Quail Hollow, so they skipped out there. But we do have results from 2013 and on, minus those years. So what I did, now if you're unfamiliar with this page, don't worry about it. This isn't that important. This is just the engine that drives the summary page we're looking at. This is the table I pull information from when it comes to top 10 percentages, success rates, counts, frequencies, all that good stuff. We cross out 2020 for last year bucket. Why? Well, the tournament wasn't played in 2020. That's why. We also cross out in 2021 because why? There was no tournament played in 2020. We cross out the bucket in 2022. Why? Because the tournament wasn't played at Quail Hollow. Like we're looking at, I just want to look at last year finishing spots at this tournament at this golf course. I could use last year's finishes. I certainly can. And you certainly can as well. Just keep in mind, usually what happens with the last year buckets, you still always want somewhere between 1 to 3 golfers who top 20'd that event the year before. This is like your universal bucket system, by the way, for the last year buckets. You still want 1 to 3 who are in the last year 1 bucket, so that top 20 finish from the year before. You want 0 to 2 between the 20 and 40 range, 0 to 2 between the 40 and 60 range, 0 to 2 between the 60 and 80 range, 1 to 3 from missed cuts last year, and then somewhere between 2 to 5 when it comes to did not plays. That is, from me doing this year after year, week after week, I know that to be the trend that follows the last year bucket. So just to repeat that, you can see the ranges that I have here, 1 to 20, it goes by 20 places. So if there's a golfer that top 20 this event, so all the golfers that top 20 this event last year, if you have access to that information, I didn't provide it on my cheat sheet. I don't have it available. But if you have access to this and you can see who finished inside the top 20 last year, just remember you want to select somewhere between 1 to 3 because that typically happens every single week on tour. 1 to 3 golfers from this bucket, again, from top 20 finishers the year before, finishes inside the top 10 of your event. So just remember that. And then it's just 0 to 2 for the next couple ranges. So if you're in love with 3 golfers in that 20 to 40 range, maybe you shouldn't be. Same goes with that 40 to 60 range and that 60 to 80 range. Maybe you shouldn't be. So let's actually take a look in 2022. Again, 2022 was played at TPC Potomac, not at Quail Hollow. So here are your top 20 golfers right here. So we have Max Homa in the field this week. We've got Keegan Bradley, Cam Young, Matt Fitzpatrick, Rory. Lonto, I believe, is still here. I think Steven Yeager is here. Stuart Sink is here. Adam Schenk is here. JT Poston is here. So is James Hahn. So is Brian Harmon. So is Jason Day. So is Kurt Kitayama is here. I don't know about Vegas. CT Pan is here. Ches Reavie is also here. And I don't know about Nick Taylor. So you have several golfers from last year's top 20 here. Almost all 20 of them. Out of all 20 of them, play 1 to 3. Play 1 to 3. So if you're going to start anchoring lineups around golfers, just play 1 to 3 of these. And then from there on, it's 0 to 2 until you get to the missed cuts. Let's see, are there any notable missed cuts down here? You know, I would probably actually change my tune, because if there aren't any really notable missed cuts, it wouldn't be 1 to 3. I would say this is probably 0 to 2. Yeah, I'm not seeing anybody that's really worthwhile. Gary Woodland, maybe? I'd actually change. Yeah, I don't see a single person really worth consideration down here. A lot of these guys actually went to the Live Tour, but okay, now that I know that, here's how I would change it. This is now 0 to 2. You can actually have a max to 3 of guys who missed the cut last year. So 0 to 2, and then what I would change is actually, I kind of joked about this, if you liked 3 golfers that are in here, maybe don't. You probably change this to 1 to 3 without even looking at the golfers that are in it. You can see Ricky Fowler's there, Corey Connors is here, Smotherman. It's worth a consideration. Siwoo Kim is also in this bucket. So maybe 0 to 3. Still keep it probably 0 to 2. And now it puts way more emphasis on golfers who did not play here last year that I think are probably more important to play. But yeah, your top 20s, 1 to 3. So I only covered that because if you guys wanted to know, I probably would just skip past it. Literally, the last year bucket, probably not one to really look at again, because we weren't playing at Quail Hollow last year, and this tournament is now an elevated event. We have a different strength of field than we did last year. Yeah, last year was 226, by the way. This year it's 592, so it's more than double. Okay, let's move on. You can follow along with me on the cheat sheet. I do have this available, so if you didn't know, just go to the bucket system portion of it and go to the filter, the bucket system. Because what I'm going to do is go by bucket with all of the ranges in between. We're going to exclude last year, and we're going to go right straight to the last week bucket. Now, these are performance trends. The bucket system is a performance trend tool to figure out, of the golfers in the field, the stats that I have it pointing at, which ones are important or not. Of course, I do look at strokes gained stats. I know that's a huge popularity thing for most people in DFS, but I like to look at last year finishes, last week finishes, course history, recent form, even salaries, because that is a rank order from DraftKings of who's more important than another golfer. And then I also have strokes gained stats. So strokes gains at the end. I like to start at last year, but now that obviously I went over the last year portion, we go into last week. Playing last week does not look like a great thing. Most of these buckets are 0 to 2. I did figure out why that is. Most of the time, the Zurich Classic, the team event, was played prior to this tournament. What that ends up doing with the buckets is it adds a crazy amount of golfers for each bucket. So just so you guys understand this, when we're looking at the last week buckets, so 2019 to 2016 is when the Zurich Classic was played the week before. So I'm looking at this bucket right here. Again, this is the engine. This is the engine that drives the summary page that you're looking at. Kind of weird that you have more than 20 golfers inside the top 20 bucket, right? Remember, the number one bucket in every single stat that I look at is always top 20. So top 20 finishes, top 20 average finishes, if we're looking at course history or recent form. That's basically what this last week bucket is, looking at golfers who top 20 the week before, the event from the week before. So obviously we're looking at the Mexico Open. But in 2019, 2018, 2017, and 2016, I was looking at the Zurich Classic. All those numbers are over 20. When you look at all the remaining years, the years on the opposite sides of it, they're all less than 20. So this kind of inflates the number, the total number here. And what ends up happening is, now you can also think of it a different way. There are more golfers in that bucket, so there should be better chances to actually finish inside the top 10. it just doesn't end up happening. It just doesn't happen. Like you can see, this is your count of top 10 finishers that fall in that bucket. So it doesn't matter if the number's higher, the performance doesn't match. So that's why this bucket is like really low. This is what you normally see with the last year, like one. Any one bucket, a bucket that has that one. So last year one, last week one, course history one over here, recent form one. They usually all have a 20% success rate when it comes to most tournaments. This one for the last week bucket has a 10% success rate. So I wanted to see if anything would change if I switched this number to like 25%. So if I did like 25, it changes the projections. It doesn't really change. Like it goes from 0.63 for your min to 1.05 with your max. If I push it up to 25, it still doesn't go over 2. My max projection still doesn't go over 2. So this projection will always be 0 to 2, regardless of the 25% is the success rate. Because what this number looks at, the projections look at success rate. It looks at how many golfers are in that bucket this year, the strength of field points that go towards it. Obviously, it's really low. So we're not looking at, a very quality bucket. Also, it doesn't have a very good success rate when it comes to performance. So that is why this projection is so low. I imagine that's also why the projections are so low for all finishes from the week before. Because remember, the last week's 6 bucket is actually a bucket where golfers didn't play the week before. That's what this bucket represents. Golfers who didn't play the week before this event. This week we have 81 golfers in that bucket, mostly because this is an elevated event and most people did not want to go to the Mexico Open. We normally see about 55. So my projection here to finish inside the top 10 from this bucket is 4 to 8. 4 to 8 golfers are going to be inside the top 10. And it's most likely going to be around 6. So you literally could create a lineup with all golfers who did not play last week, and you'd probably be okay. You'd probably be okay if you can fit that in your lineup. Of course, that was what we just discussed in the review for the Mexico Open, with Rahm and Finau being really the only 10K golfers, and that kind of messing up one of the buckets because they both finished inside the top 10. They satisfied the bucket projection, but you couldn't build an optimal lineup that way. So you always got to keep that in mind. I still think if you wanted to build 4 to 6, like if you wanted at least 4 golfers from this bucket in your lineup, be my guest. Like I think it's going to help you out. And it's going to be very successful. You do have 10 9K and above golfers from that bucket in there. So of the 10, how many truly do you think are going to finish inside the top 10? I would say about 3. I'd say 30%. Absolutely. With that being said, maybe you can't build a lineup with more than 3 or 4 golfers from this bucket in your lineup. So keep that in mind when you're building lineups. Although the projections say, whatever, we might, there is the possibility we actually could have like 5 or 6 golfers from this bucket inside the top 10, and you might only be able to play 2 of them, at most 3 of them. So just keep that in mind. You have to keep that in mind. And if that's the case, then use the max projections for each of these to the true number. So missed cuts from last week, 2 is the most. Top 20s from last week, 2 is the most. Actually, 2 is the most for any of these buckets, by the way. So that's how I would look at the last week buckets. And just to go over a lot of those golfers really quickly, I don't want to spend a lot of time going through each of these buckets. Let's just take a look at ones and salaries. There we go. So really it's Finau. We were looking at last week's 6s. Okay, so you see what last week 1s are, right? Goes 10K down to the 7K range. So I think it's probably easy to find 2 golfers to build lineups around. Finau's not going to be one of them for me. Go to last week's 6s. Here we go. McIlroy, Schauffele, Cantlay, your 10K and above golfers. Then it drops to basically every 9K golfer that's in the field, almost all of them. Maybe it is all of them. I truly don't know how many are in the 9K range. 7. Yeah, so you do have all 7 9K golfers in this bucket, golfers who did not play last week. So just out of this number here, we've got 10 golfers. Yeah. I could see easily. Yeah, I could see easily 3 of them finishing inside the top 10. And there's obviously room for more of them to finish inside the top 10. You just got to make your choices. You got to figure out which ones are the correct combinations to put together to put in your lineup. I will say this, though. The 8K range, I think, has enough golfers in it to make considerations where you could do a 10, 9, 8, and then move on from that bucket. Like, maybe don't select anyone else. But are there any set, like, okay, Ben Griffin is in this field. I like Ben Griffin on Bermuda tracks, 37th in my model. Adam Schenk seems fine. Svensson seems fine. We can go back to Stevens. I got no issue with that. Nick Hardy just won the Zurich Classic with Davis Riley not too long ago. He's here at $7,100. Justin Suh, Seamus Power, who is our fall swing darling. JT Poston, no issue there. Harris, like, there's enough down here even to build lineups around. So, yeah. I think you could probably put anywhere between 3 to 4, 3 to 5 golfers from this bucket inside your lineup and be just fine. And maybe this is where you start and you just ignore those that golfed at the Mexico Open. So really that kind of concludes the last week buckets. We can move on to the course history buckets. So when we look at this, again, if you're on the cheat sheet, by the way, this is the best way to actually follow along with me. Let me zoom in a little bit here. The columns B through F have all the bucket numbers that I'm talking about right now. So when I was telling you last, just here with the last week buckets, we were looking at last week's 6s, and I told you to pick somewhere between 3 to 4. Well, if you go ahead and use the filter that's on here, and you do use this to filter out your every other bucket but your last week's 6s, that way you can follow along with me. And so now we're on course history buckets. So when I talk about course history buckets, like when I tell you you want 0 to 2 course history ones, what you should be doing on the cheat sheet, if you do want to follow along, is clear everything out of the course history bucket and just go to the ones. So it's like 0 to 2 is what you want to put in your lineup. Well, we got Rory and Victor Hovland, who a lot of people are already talking about this week. Same goes with Keith Mitchell. 0 to 2, though, remember that. So if you did like, if you do want to put Rory and Victor Hovland together, probably exclude the rest that are here. That's how I look at it. And that's when I say 0 to 2, just make sure that you're selecting 1 to 2. I shouldn't even say make sure. You have the option to select 1 to 2. But probably don't pick more than 2. And of course, keep in mind salaries and stuff like that, like I discussed earlier, especially with the Mexico Open review. You can find yourself in trouble if you don't actually look at salaries and stuff like that that can comprise the projections for the projections for the buckets. 0 to 2 course history ones, this says 1 to 2. But truly, this is 0 to 2. Remember, we always want a 2-point buffer, and whenever we can, we always lower the minimum first. If this was 0 to 1, since we can't go lower than 0, like say this was 0.12, and this was 0.87, like 0.87, 0.12. This rounds down to 0, but we want a 2-point gap. Since we can't go further down than 0, we go up. So that's how we get our 2-point gap, and that becomes 0 to 2. Much like this. So this one here says 1 to 2. Well, the max is still 2. Doesn't go over 2. That brings the minimum down to 0. That's going to be the same projection as this course history 4 bucket, which is 0 to 2. This bucket here is 1 to 3, and I always like to confirm with this bucket over here, which you guys can't see on the cheat sheet. I have for my own personal use. It works out. That's perfect. 0 to 2 works here. Wonderful. 0 to 2 course history 5s, and then 0 to 2 course history 6s. So when it comes to the course history buckets, there aren't. Well, I shouldn't say they aren't. There's really one true anchor bucket, but we wouldn't consider this an anchor bucket in our strategy video because it has over 30 golfers in it. But the projection is you want at least one. So why don't we take a look really quickly at course history 3s. See who are in them. Can we find 3 golfers we want to build our lineups around? So it starts with Xander, then Tony. I will probably be full fading Tony. I've got no issue doing that this week. It has really nothing to do with his win last week. It just has everything to do with buckets. I don't like the buckets he's in. I'd rather not play him unless he was in a true bucket that I did want to choose from. So I'm going to probably skip out on him. I don't mind playing Xander, but I'll also probably skip out on him. I'll also skip out on Homa. I don't mind going to Sung J M. Wouldn't mind playing Hatton or Fleetwood. I'm probably going to live more in this range when it comes to these golfers. So really 1 to 3, I would maybe sit on the 1 part. Like I would 1 or 2. I don't like selecting 3 golfers from this bucket. Yeah, 1 to 2 for me, most likely, is going to be the spot. Adam Scott, by the way, extremely underpriced, in my opinion. $7,300. That seems like a safe play. Like, I don't mind going with Adam Scott. He can be my number 1. And then I could also include, like, Corey Connors, who hasn't really been playing that well, but $7,900, that's fine. And really anyone in between, Keegan, Woodland, Cam Davis, probably not Hadwin, but definitely options here. So again, 1 to 3 from that bucket and really 0 to 2 from all the other ones, which keeps the course history buckets wide open. Going into the recent form buckets. Definitely a tournament where recent form reigns supreme. So this number 1 bucket, again, remember I go by 20-point positions. So how this reads is over the last 7 weeks, golfers in this bucket have averaged a finishing position between 1 to 20th place. That means really good recent form. We have 17 golfers in that bucket this week, where we normally see 7, so we have 10 more. And this is a high success rate. Ton of, well, not a ton, but quite a bit of strength of field points are going towards 30%. That bumps this projection up to 1 to 3 golfers. You want to pick your golfers or to pick from. 2 to 4 golfers from recent form 2s. I'm kind of also looking at average salaries, so maybe this 1 to 3 for recent form 1s might not be doable. We'll take a look here shortly. But yeah, average salary is borderline a little too expensive. And then 1 to 3 recent form 3s. The rest are 0 to 2s. So again, if you're following along with me on the cheat sheet, that's how I want you to look at this. And by the way, again, this is included. You have these projections here as well. Go ahead and put a filter on this bucket system, and we can go over the same buckets that I'm talking about. So recent form buckets, you can see the projections are the exact same that I have right here. I'm a little more zoomed in, but you have this information on the cheat sheet. And again, when I say 1 to 3, that's what I'm projecting to be inside the top 10. You could use that as how many golfers you want to select from, but also be cognizant of how expensive golfers are in that bucket. What's the likelihood of those guys finishing inside the top 10? And what's the likelihood of you actually being able to roster those golfers? You know, like the high end, the high priced golfers in a lineup. If you can't really feasibly make one, then you personally have to choose to drop this projection down. So you got to make those decisions. So let's go ahead and take a look at the recent form 1 buckets. Make sure you select everybody from the buckets you've kind of already deselected. So recent form 1, your best recent form. We've got Xander, Patrick, Tony Finau, Spieth, Sung Jae, Fowler, Ricky Fowler, Cam Young, Sam Burns, Thigala. So again, the projection's 1 to 3. I already know I'm starting a lot of my lineups around Patrick Cantlay. I also don't mind playing Jordan Spieth, Sung Jae Im, even Ricky Fowler, Cam Young, Sam Burns. And then that's probably where it stops for me. For golfers that I know I want to play, I don't mind adding in any of these golfers here, by the way. Probably not Alejandro Tosti. I probably don't care. He was comfortable at the Mexico Open. We'll see if he can ride it out. He had a top 10 there, so he's in this event because of that. To get into the next one, he's got a top 10 as well. And if you get so many top 10s, you'll get a temporary sponsorship or a temporary exemption. So that's his only route to continue going forward. So if that's enough reason for you to play him, go for it. But never fall in love with the 6K golfer, right? So to me, I could see Cantlay easily finishing inside the top 10. I could see Xander easily finishing inside the top 10. As much as I'm not going to play Tony Finau this week, I could see him easily finishing inside the top 10. Spieth is a little bit more volatile for my taste, but I could see him also finishing inside the top 10. Sungjae seems pretty safe. Fowler might be a little bit more of a, a fan pick this week, but remember, he has a win at the Wells Fargo Championship, so I could see him inside the top 10. And really, a lot of these guys, solid golfers. So that 1 to 3 projection, I think, holds up. And it might actually be more towards the later side. It's just how many of these really high-priced guys are going to finish inside the top 10 versus the low guys. It's kind of what you got to do your versus. Like, what's the likelihood of 3 of these guys finishing inside the top 10 versus 1 of these guys finishing inside the top 10? Because if 1 of these guys finishes inside the top 10, then you only select 2 of these guys up here, and that's easy. So that's how I look at it. Very easy, in my opinion, to go, 10K golfer and Patrick Cantlay, drop down to Sungjae at 9,100, and then grab any of these guys, really 80. Well, yeah, Ricky Fowler and down. I could see that being just fine. Let's see, 10-5, 9-1, 8-8. So we have 28,000. We have roughly $21,600 on the table. That equates to what, $7,200 left. You put a 6K golfer in there, and then boom, you got 2 7Ks, 10-9-8, 7-7-6. Perfect. So easy to do that with the recent form ones. Looking at the next projection, 2 to 4, and that actually stays the same with the conservative projection. 2 to 4 recent form 2s. Again, just only look at recent form 2s, take out recent form 1s. Morikawa, Fitzpatrick, Hovland, Jason Day, Justin Thomas. So those 4 golfers kind of make up this. This is a 2 to 4 projection. JT and up. Yeah, that's fine. I probably like more 7K golfers than I do anyone above 8K, if I'm being honest with you. Let's lump in Fleetwood there too. So Fleetwood, I'd rather not start with any of these guys up here and just grab my 2 golfers from down here. And I'm probably only going to grab 2. 3 at most. Remember, though, this is a projection of 2 to 4 to be inside the top 10. And you could, here's the question we got to think. Again, this is PTSD from the Mexico Open. Are these 3 golfers going to finish inside the top 10? If so, then you only play 2. Or you just play 1. What's the likelihood that these are going to be the guys that represent the top 10 for this bucket versus the rest of these guys? I would choose the field over these 3. Especially like Keegan Bradley. We're in the Northeast, right? No, we're not. We're in North Carolina. We're not in the Northeast. Just kidding. I do like Keegan, though, at this event. Yeah, but we've got a lot of good choices. Let's just put it that way. That I don't think it's going to be one of these 3. I don't mind playing Victor Hovland. Probably not going to get around to Matt Fitzpatrick. And I don't mind playing Victor Hovland. 5th in my model, $9,200. That's a steal, in my opinion. I don't mind going there. And JT, by the way, 8th in the model at 8,900. That's exactly where he should be. So he's priced appropriately. Yeah, so I would select 2 golfers from this bucket. I'm not sure exactly who. If I were to go the recent form 1 route and go Cantlay, Sungjae Im, and then Ricky Fowler, that only leaves me room with 7K golfers, but this is a great bucket to select 7K golfers from. A lot of these guys are pretty decent. I don't mind playing. Like, again, Adam Scott seems pretty safe to me. I would play Adam Scott in all my cash lineups. I don't have no issue playing Adam Scott. And then, I don't know, fit someone else in, I guess. I'm really not liking the names when I kind of pass through them. I guess I don't mind going to someone like Benny Ann. He kind of was frustrating last week, but not terrible. I don't like his course history. Never mind. Grillo seems okay. I don't know. We'll let the optimizer select golfers tomorrow, but I don't mind starting with a Cantlay start. Let's do that tomorrow. Hopefully, those that are watching remind me. Let's start with Cantlay, Sungjae, and Ricky Fowler, and then we'll go from there. We'll see which golfers are being selected from this bucket, because this will be 2 to 4. We'll be selecting 2 to 4 golfers from this bucket pretty easily. And then the next one to talk about, recent form 3s, 1 to 3 from this one. Go in the recent form tab or filter and go to select 3. Deselect everyone else, but select 3. Not everyone else, but you know, the other numbers in that bucket. So this bucket's interesting. Recent form 3s. Yeah, Rory hasn't played a lot. I want to say this is his Masters. What is he? He's got a Masters. Oh no, I got to change this. I forgot to update. This should not even be here. See if I can do it really quick. I'm going to do it on the fly. This is probably going to change the projections, by the way. So I forget to do this. We don't include match play in recent form, and I forgot to exclude it when I was updating it. It won't take long. It's just unfortunate that it worked out this way. Just one of those annoying things. I mean, it's really going to change McIlroy's. Look at that. It goes from 44 to 85. So we remember where the projections were. Basically 1 to 3, 2 to 4, 1 to 3. Let's see what it changes to. Go back. Still 1 to 3, but now it's 1 to 4 and 1 to 3. So that's interesting. And that makes sense. I think that's fine. When we were looking at that previous bucket, which obviously I think it's going to change now, we'll have to take a look at that. Which means I need to update this as well. Don't mind me. Back here. Take the filters off. Go up here, change this information. Then we got to change the buckets. And I need to update that on the cheat sheet, which I'll probably just do afterwards. This is actually really, this makes things really interesting. Because, actually, this should change the projections a little bit too. Yeah, everything is pretty much the same now, 1 to 3s. So, bucket 1, bucket 2, and bucket 3 are still 1 to 3. Let's take a look at the changes. I do apologize for that, by the way. Should have known. So bucket 1, we still have Xander, we still have Cantlay and Finau. We still have Spieth and Sungjae. I don't remember if there was anyone else in there. We still have Fowler. Just a double check here. Everything. Oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, again, let's do the Cantlay, Sungjae, Fowler lineup tomorrow. So interesting. And then let's see what changed with recent form 2. We are missing a 9K golfer, right? Who was it? Was it Morikawa? I think it was Morikawa. Yeah, Morikawa changes to a recent form 3. Had to have been. Yep, that would have bumped him down. It would have went from 42 to like 30 something with adding the match play. Okay, yep, so we're missing Morikawa, and that's it. That's fine, actually. So 1 to 3 from this bucket, and I love that, because choosing 1, 2, or yeah, just makes life a little easier. Because again, I still like Adam Scott. He's still here. But if I needed to select 1, maybe I don't do a Fowler to go with like Cantlay and Im, and I do Justin Thomas. Or maybe I don't do Sungjae Im and I go with Jason Day. And then I can go Cantlay, Jason Day, Ricky Fowler, and build lineups that way. That's obviously possible. So now that this has been updated, we are looking at true numbers. 1 to 3 here. Now we have Morikawa in this bucket to go along with the rest of the guys. We didn't really touch up on the recent form 3s. But again, you want 1 to 3 from here. And I think that's fine, because this 7K range is okay. It's pretty decent. I don't have an issue with it whatsoever. I'm going to stay away from Lowry. I don't mind going Tyrrell Hatton. I also don't mind playing Colin Morikawa, but I probably am not going to anchor lineups around Morikawa. He's probably going to be in that 5% or less exposure for me range. And yeah, and I won't be anchoring lineups around him because there's just too many golfers down here to just slot in. And with projections being 1 to 3, that's not super great. I would take the field over playing the top 2 guys. I would take the field over Morikawa and Hatton. And if that's the case, then I'm not anchoring around lineups up here. So hopefully that makes sense. And just to go over the rest of them, because we were looking at Rory in recent form 3s, he's going to be a recent form 5 golfer. We were also looking at Homa earlier. I think he was a recent form 3. He changes to a recent form 4. That projection's 0 to 2. It's 0 to 2 for the rest of the buckets, by the way. So that includes Homa in recent form 4 with the rest of the 7 and 6K golfers. That also is going to include Rory McIlroy in the recent form 5 bucket. Look at that. It's him and a bunch of 6K golfers. And then recent form 6 are just golfers who really haven't played on the PGA Tour. And that's Austin Greaser, Quinn Riley, Marcus Bird, and Morgan Deneen. So those are your recent form buckets. It almost feels like every single week we need to do an update once we figure things out with the recent form buckets. And I think it has a lot to do with the match play. I hate that the match play gets included. But anyways, we got to figure it out. We got to sort it out. So moving on to the next one, obviously we're going to talk about salaries. I should say obviously, but that's what we're going to talk about. So with salaries, we already went through the pass optimal and GPP winning lineup segment just to kind of further push that narrative, I guess. Not so much narrative. That method, the 10-9-8-7-7-6. 0 to 2 10K golfers I'm projecting to be inside the top 10 this week. We have 4, so 0 to 2. I think it's pretty simple. Really 0 to 2 9K golfers. We have 7 of those in the field this week. 0 to 2 8K golfers, and we've got 10 of those in the field this week. It is worth noting that these are pretty high frequency rates, which means every single year a golfer from these buckets finish inside the top 10 at these rates. So you can see a lot of 100%. We do see an 80%. And you can also see in the optimal lineup segment here, we've seen at least 1 8 and 1 7K golfer every single year inside the top 10. So keep all of that in mind. Your 7K range projections 2 to 4, but this little projection over here drops my minimum down because this goes up to 3. We round up to 3, which remember you want a 2-point buffer, so that drops it down to 1. So 1 to 3 is what the projection would be, but our actual max projection in this bucket is 3.4. So we bumped that up to 4. I know it's confusing, but the new projection for this bucket is 1 to 4 7K golfers. Obviously, I got my eyes set on Adam Scott. We don't have to look at any of the salary, like the golfers with their salaries. I'm just telling you this, so when you're building your lineups, obviously feel comfortable selecting whatever you want to. But hopefully this also gives you a bit more confidence going 10-9-8-7-7-6 because the 6K range really don't want any of the low 6K golfers, and there are 47 of them. 47. Not a high success rate, not a high frequency rate, no more than 1 inside the top 10 and no more than 1 in an optimal lineup. I believe the one that was in the optimal lineup was Scott Piercy. And I don't remember which year, but he was a $6,200 golfer. So that would have been him representing this bucket. Otherwise, most of your 6K range is 6,500 and up. That's what represents in most of your top 10s. And actually, by the way, there's been one golfer inside the top 10 that's been 6,500, I should say, in the 6K range, 6,500 and above every single year inside the top 10. Maybe not so much in the optimal lineup, but inside the top 10 we have. So I just think it's, feel comfortable playing a 6K golfer this week. I know it's hard. I know it's difficult for most, but I don't think you should worry too much. And then really the last bucket to wrap up the bucket system are the strokes gain buckets. Now, if you're unfamiliar with how I do strokes gain buckets, I highly encourage you to go check out the video in the description that says, basically the bucket system explained. Check that out. Fast forward to the bucket system portion of it. To the strokes gain portion of it and learn what goes into this, because I really predicate all my stuff off the tee and putting. I don't care about approach. Approach does not go into my stats. One, off the tee actually paves the way for approach. If you have really good off the tee stats, the potential for having lower approach stats is high. And I'll explain that in an upcoming video. I'm going to go over a, do strokes gained stats matter video. That's why I don't really include approach, because off the tee dictates your potential on approach, the approach stat. So why not start with off the tee? And then putting is just frankly, are you getting the ball in the hole? If you have nothing but, 3-foot birdie putts, if you make all of those putts by the end of a round, you're only gaining like 0.9 strokes putting. So it just seems silly, I mean, your approach stat would be really high, most likely. But I want to see those that are still putting well. And so that's why I do it from these buckets. Anyways, let's move on. Strokes gained 1 are all stats positive. So here you go. You got your approach stats that are positive. We have 23 golfers in that bucket this week, where we normally see 9. And because it's an elevated event, we have all the good, basically all the best golfers here. 50% of the stroke strength of field points go towards this. 100% frequency rate of finding one of these guys inside the top 10. But guess what? We're projecting 2 to 5. That's what also you have for your min max when it comes to top 10s. 0 to 3 optimal lineups. I don't think that really matters all that much because of the quality of golfer in this bucket. Now there are 9K and above golfers in the bucket, and average's salary is $8,500. So I would go on the low side of this projection. If you're selecting golfers from this bucket, I'd select somewhere like 2 or 3. And the wonderful thing about the cheat sheet, if you are on the cheat sheet, go ahead and just sort A to Z from strokes gained bucket, and you'll have strokes gained 1. This is how it's all sorted. That's how the color scheme for the names and the buckets go by. It's by the strokes gained bucket. So strokes gained 1 out of these golfers. By the way, this is the cheat sheet, which you can find again in the description of the video. I'm gonna go back to my sheet. 2 to 5 from this bucket here. Grayson Sig, $6,400 is your cheapest guy. Svensson is the only other guy in the 6K range. Either one of these guys, I don't mind playing. And quite frankly, all of the golfers in this bucket, I don't mind playing whatsoever. So 2 to 5. I like Cantlay, obviously. I was talking about that earlier. I was also saying Sung J M and Ricky Fowler were golfers that I might build my lineups around. Well, guess what? If there are some of these guys down here that you want to fill your lineups with, remember it's 2 to 5 golfers from this bucket that I'm projecting to be inside the top 10. What's to say that if you selected 5 golfers, those aren't the ones that do finish inside the top 10 or have a good possibility of finishing inside the top 10? So keep that in mind. Strokes gained 2, 0 to 2 is the projection. Victor Hovland is at the top of this one. Then Sam Burns, Keith Mitchell, and then it kind of just drops. 0 to 2, I think, is a perfect projection for this bucket. My guy, Adam Scott, is here. I do like Adam Scott this week, by the way. Strokes gained 3. Our projection here is 1 to 3. We've seen a minimum of 3 every single year inside the top 10 and a minimum of 2 in the optimal lineup every single year. There are 47 of those golfers in this bucket. This year, we're on average, we see 36. So chances of this being closer to 3 golfers representing the top 10 is pretty high. And if there's ever any reason to really get on Justin Thomas, I mean, this is a perfect time to do so. Same goes with like Colin Morikawa. No issues there. Cam Young seems fine. Same with Corey Connors. I probably never get to Shane Lowry, honestly. Siwoo Kim, I think, is fine play. I don't mind going Riley, Davis, Buckley, Yeager. Probably skip JJ Spawn and Joel Damon and Kitayama. Okay, so most of these guys I'd probably skip. I'm going to play all these guys sparingly, like 4% or lower. I don't feel comfortable playing a lot of these guys. Pendrith, though, he's 36th in my model. I kind of like Pendrith this week. I think that's a pretty good value. $7,000? Yeah, I could be convinced to play Pendrith. So again, the bucket projection here, 1 to 3. So if you found 3 golfers you like, by all means, go ahead and play them. And then 0 to 2 for the rest of the buckets. So when I scroll down, when we have it sorted by the stroke chain stuff, this is 0 to 2. Grab 0 to 2 golfers here. So again, no more than 2. If you're feeling frisky, go for it. Pick 3 or 4. Sometimes the buckets are not successful, but if you're really trying to hit the optimal lineup, you want to follow the projections. So 0 to 2. If I was to pick a golfer, Kuchar obviously stands out. I don't mind Denny McCarthy. JT Poston, someone I don't mind playing at $7,100. I think that's fine. Same goes with Sam Ryder and maybe Seamus Power. Yeah, we'll see. Eric Cole, $6,800. Not terrible. I actually wouldn't mind going to Frankie Molinari, honestly. But probably just skip past the rest of these guys. Play the rest of these guys sparingly. And then 0 to 2, stroke chain 5. Webb Simpson is still in this bucket, which is sad. Guy has fallen far from grace. Eric Van Rooyen's still down here. That's crazy. That is negative off the tee and negative putting stats. Is that true? Yeah, he's basically a 0 off the tee guy, but a really bad putter. I think recently he's probably been playing better, right? Oh, he's still negative off the tee. How? Doesn't the guy bomb the golf ball? Is he just that inaccurate? 298 is what his driving distance is. Okay, so I guess not. I thought he hit the ball way farther than that. He's a whole different golfer. I didn't even think... I thought he was better. Yeah, I thought he was better. Yeah, 0 to 2 of these guys, by the way. This is a good reason not to play any of these golfers. And then we have 1 stroke chain 6 guy. So, yeah, probably just stay away from him as well. That covers all the buckets this week, though. And subsequently, that also covers the preview video, which right at our 1 hour and 45-minute mark happens every single week. So let's go ahead and do some just some giveaway reminders, by the way. So I'll bring that down. We did run a monthly and a weekly subscriber giveaway earlier in the video. If you want to go check out who won, I can give it to you right now. It was Gabe. Gabe won both the monthly and the weekly giveaway. So congratulations, Gabe. You win a t-shirt as well as $5. But if you want to enter into the weekly giveaway that I do every Monday night, that also gets you into the monthly giveaway. They're one and the same. It's just I obviously run the weekly giveaway weekly and the monthly giveaway monthly. So if you want an entry into this, be subscribed to the channel, comment down below. If you need any help with topics, always give me your 2 favorite golfers that you want to build your lineups around. That's the simplest way to do it. You can leave whatever message you want. You will get credit for it as long as you're subscribed to the channel. And you get 1 free entry per video. So this is a preview video. I'm going to cut these all up into segments. Those segments will all be their standalone videos. So I think there's already going to be 4 plus this one. And then I have a strategy video I'm going to do tomorrow. So that'll be 6 plus the live version of itself. 7. You have 7 opportunities to get your name into the giveaway. Now, it's not so much opportunities. You will get an entry for every time that you participate. So you can get 7 entries into next week's weekly giveaway, which again is $5 free just by participating on the channel. So that's available to you. And again, those weekly giveaways, those entries go into the monthly giveaway. And if you're not on Prize Picks, this is available to you. Check out the link in the description. They'll send you to the Prize Picks homepage. Once you hit sign up, SweetSpot will already be populating the promo code. You sign up using that promo code, put some money in your account. I will give you $20 back. Plus, Prize Picks will match your deposit up to $100. So if you want to put 20, 40, 60, 80, $100 in your account, they're just going to double it. And you're still going to get $20 back for me. So check out the link down below or go to Prize Picks, use the promo code SweetSpot when you sign up and put an initial deposit in there and you'll get $20 back for me as soon as I get a report saying that you signed up using the promo code. So that is also available, and hopefully you follow along with me with the cheat sheet and everything. I will have an optimizer ready for tomorrow in the strategy video. Again, I go live 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Be there. We'll build some lineups. We'll go over anchor buckets. We'll go over marquee tee times. Remember the Mexico Open, 100% successful when it comes to the sweet spot process. buckets were 100%. The marquee tee times were 100%. And obviously we go over the marquee tee times in the strategy video. And again, I build lineups using the optimizer. So if you want to check it out, again, tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's all I have for you guys. So thank you for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. All right, bye.